And hello, everybody. This is MJ Hernandez, the host of this baseball show that is only talked about Oakland A's baseball and the only Oakland A's baseball show for the Baseball Podcast Network. We are in episode 11 with the 65 and 50 Oakland Athletics. Ready to go. August has just started. Next month is September. You already know what September is all about. The final 2 months of baseball is here. We are going to talk about playoff chances. What do we need to do? And the overall roster and how everything is shaping up. And this is going to be a great 11th episode. Glad you guys can join us. And like to thank again the Baseball Podcast Network for having me here. 11 episodes right here. And this is A's Weekly.
And we dropping out y'all squad wannabes. Y'all really not stop. Y'all famous. I'm ballin' like big bitties. They wanna have my baby. I'm fresh like mayonnaise. Done big time. Done big time.
And there you go, Nefta Farrow, the young legend over here in the Bay Area. A lot of people that know him already are big fans of Nefta Farrow. Definitely one of the brighter young rappers from the Bay Area. We're gonna get stuff hyphy over here in the Bay Area. So the Oakland Athletics still in that wild card picture. We just won today against the Chicago White Sox 7-0, which was pretty awarding, to say the least. I mean, it was just a lot of good things happening here in the Oakland Athletics game versus Chicago at Chicago. We all know about this long weekend that we got to see in Chicago. Home runs are still in the conversation when you talk about the swinging A's. Matt Chapman has a new hairdo, shaving it all the way bald. Hit his 25th of the year. Piscotty hitting his 11th in the second inning off of Detweiler. Chapman in the first, and then Pinder taking it deep with the 11th home run of the year on the 8th inning against Fry. Now, what are things that we can see of this series? Last series wasn't that great with the Cubs. Only had really one game where we just out-hit them and just did damage against John Lester. But we still continue to see Homer Bailey struggle in the road. And then Chris Bassett pitched pretty well in the first game, but didn't have enough help from the bullpen. And the offense didn't seem like they were off right. But 9 hits today against the Chicago White Sox. People in the hit column, a lot were actually on there, but 3 hitters did not hit today. The struggling Chris Davis is still trying to find his groove after taking a couple of nights off in Chicago versus the Cubs. Olsen went hitless today as well. No person on base for the first baseman slash Gold Glover. And also Marcus Semien, who did get on base by a walk. But Chris Davis did get on base by a walk, but he did not hit as well. So everybody else hit to gather in the 9 hits for this great offensive lineup. The story of the night, though, or the story of the day, technically here in the Bay Area, is the ace, Mike Fiers, going 7 scoreless innings, 8 strikeouts. Now, when we talk about Mike Fiers, this is a guy who doesn't really get that much strikeouts. He's not going to do that. He's a fly ball type pitcher, but today he did pick up 8 strikeouts, only allowed 3 hits in 7 innings, bringing his ERA to a 3.30 ERA, 4.50 FIP, 5.25 xFIP, 99 strikeouts, and 147.1 innings pitched. Now, when you see these high numbers of FIP, XFIP, it's scary. But, sometimes these numbers don't describe how good these pitchers are. And then when you look at the ERA, like, okay, this guy can do some damage. But I think the FIP is only on because there is a lot of runners that are on base when Mike Fiers is pitching. That's just how it is. Now the MLB, so the show was the game was broadcasted by the MLB tonight and the MLB network, and they showed an interesting statistic. Mike Fiers going 4-0 with a 1.84 ERA in his last 9 starts, which is 58.2 innings pitched. Now, that is very much impressive. That is telling you that Mike Fiers has turned it on. He's had the best ERA since since the end of April. I forgot. I think it was the 28th or 27th. He has been the best pitcher since then. So this guy has been tremendous, and I think he is the favorite to get the nod if the A's do get the wild card spot. They are still looking into getting that first place spot of the wild card, hopefully. The Cleveland Indians are only 3.5 games behind, but the Cleveland Indians haven't played today, nor has the Tampa Bay Rays, who they are currently tied for in the wild card. The crazy thing about this wild card thing, though, this stat just blows my mind away, because this is something that really, really, really gets to me, because it just shows you how good the teams that are above us actually are. The Cleveland Indians and the Tampa Bay Rays, before this game versus Chicago White Sox, they have had the same record in the last 10 games like us. Now, the reason why that's crazy is because this wild card standings that has been shown right now, it's literally up and down, up and down, up and down for normal teams. Like in the NL, there's just a lot of teams that have a good hot streak or not. No, the Rays, Indians, and A's have kept it close for the last month already. We have already talked about this a lot, with the A's being close in the wild card spot. Last week, they were 1 game ahead of Tampa Bay. Now they find themselves tied. If the Tampa Bay Rays do lose, they get half a game ahead of Tampa. So this might be something interesting. Cleveland would, if they lose today too, they will be 3 games ahead of Oakland. And I think the A's are looking more into getting this wild card lead. Now, the Indians are playing the Minnesota Twins at 5-10. That is going to be a great series, especially since Minnesota is ahead of them. And that means the Indians are going to play the team that is in their division, the Twins being 70-45, and only 1 game ahead of the Cleveland Indians. So the Indians are definitely going to try to win this one, because they want to regain this AL Central back. Now, we talked about last week how great this team changed lineup-wise. Yasiel Puig coming in, really giving in a good combination in the lineup. And then I forgot who else. I think it was Pirela? No, it was not Pirela. It was someone else. Someone from the Padres that went to the Indians as well. Oh, Franmil Reyes, I think that's his name. Went to the Indians, another powerhouse that's going to Cleveland. Really going to make them a big threat offensively wise. And this is just going to be interesting, because you are basically looking at, if you want to be technically clear, you're basically looking at 3 teams above you that you're going to have to compete with, whether it be the Twins, the Indians, or the Rays, because those are the only 3 teams that are really in your range and really going to compete with you. Now, the Rays, however, are facing a last place team in Seattle. That game starts tonight at 7:10. Seattle not being the quite ideal opponents that you would want against the really, really good Tampa Bay Rays, who is starting to get some players back from the injury list. Now, Oakland needs to be focused and determined to win these series, because it's just been incredibly bad luck or it's been a lot of bad luck for Oakland this season. There's been a good fair share of good luck as well with these series. But we all know that Oakland has done this before. They pulled through. Tampa Bay facing the 5-5 Seattle Mariners in the last 10 games, and the Twins are 6-4 in the last 10 games as well. So there's going to be a pretty good competition with Cleveland and Minnesota, but I think Tampa Bay is highly the favorite against the Seattle Mariners. Now let's go back to the A's, who they got. They got Chicago for 3 games, which they have won the first game. So we already won one game, 7-0. After Chicago, they come back to the Bay Area, have 2 games against San Francisco. Then we have Houston for 4 games, New York for 3 games, the Giants again for 2, Kansas City, which is kind of a breather, for 4 games, and then New York for another 3 games. No, another 4 games. No, it is 3 games. 3 games. So that's August. That's the month of August. So the White Sox, SF, Houston, back to New York. Then they play the Giants again, Kansas City, and then New York again. Now that New York series, it is in the end of August, so then it turns into September. So they do have 1 game in September versus the New York Yankees. Then in September, they have 1 game with the Yankees, 3 games with the Angels, 3 games against Detroit. They are also going to make up 1 game that was postponed. We all remember when Hendricks took that inning, and then they just didn't let him pitch. They were warming him up and everything. The A's were 22-25 at that time, and the Detroit Tigers were 18-26. Detroit right now have the worst record in the MLB. So that is making you feel good, especially if you need really, really not easy games, but simpler series, especially since the rough August that we're about to have. Then they got 4 again with Houston. So the Detroit series should be used to pick up the offense a bit. Detroit has one of the worst pitching staff in baseball. They lost some key arms in their bullpen. Got to feel bad for these Detroit Tigers. It's been a crazy ride for Detroit. But then after Detroit, they get 4 games against Houston, 3 against Texas, 3 again for KC, 3 against Texas, 2 against LA, and 4 against the Seattle Mariners. Now, September looks a lot easier than August if you are looking at a pen and paper, because you basically got, in September, you got 4 games against Houston. You got 6 games against the New York Yankees. Then you got 4 against the Giants as well, who has been a surprise, pretty good team. And in August, the real break that you have is this series with the White Sox, and then the 4-game series against Kansas City. The first series that we had in August was against the Cubs. 1-2 we went in that series, which was a pretty rough start to this really, really busy August that we're having. So this series, this schedule that we have in September is a lot lighter, having against the Seattle Mariners, who are in last place, another last place team in Detroit. You're going to face not too great of a Kansas City team. Then you're going to have Texas, which has been a lot died down. A lot of things have died down in Texas. But let's look closer into Detroit. Detroit, they have Matthew Boyd, they have Daniel Norris, Spencer Turnbull, and then combinations in pitchers starting wise for this Detroit Tigers. The bullpen has been really, really, really bad because they had just let go their star closer in Shane Green. Shane Green was traded to the Atlanta Braves. Really has struggled so far in Atlanta, has a 15.0 ERA in 3 innings pitched, allowing 5 runs so far as an Atlanta Brave. So Detroit pitching wise is going to be a